the hot topic of the last few weeks, if not months, the Steam machine. And this is pretty interesting to look at because it's such a turbulent time for PC hardware right now, and such a good time for gaming, you know, with so many games coming out and indie games doing really well. And so a lot of people are looking at getting into PC gaming, and a good way to do that is of course with something like a Steam machine that would be a console equivalent sort of system that you can use to stream on, or that you can use to do some light 4K gaming on, or just, you know, use as an all-round media center, so, you know, at your TV or wherever you would have it set up. You could even use it as a primary gaming driver if you want to. With an HD screen, it would be a really good one. But the point is that the Steam machine has sparked a lot of debate, and I thought it would be interesting to, over the next couple of videos, take a look at what I would build as a direct equivalent to the Steam machine and what that would cost. And I think it's going to surprise you how much it would cost, because, you know, this comes at a strange time in the industry where RAM's prices is just jacked up through the roof. Everything else is getting more expensive, and, you know, of course, with everything going on in the US, it's a turbulent time for computer hardware, and things are expensive. So let's take a look here at the actual specs of the Steam machine. So coming in with the CPU, we've got it says semi-custom, but it's just a 6-core 12-thread Zen 4 AMD CPU. So it's just a modern AMD CPU that is going to use DDR5 and have all of the modern technologies in it, which is going to be good for gaming, especially, you know, 4K gaming. And along with that, it is obviously an RDNA 3 GPU. So that's going to be sort of equivalent to, you know, when you're talking about AMD, maybe something like a 7600, 7700, or when you're talking about NVIDIA, it could be like a 4060 or a 3070, maybe a little bit under that. But in terms of what you should aim at getting as a replacement, I would say something like that. I haven't quite gone for that, but I'll show you that in a second. The difficult one at the moment, of course, RAM. Now, VRAM wise, the card does have 8 gigabytes, which is a little bit underkill. I would have preferred if they had given the option to opt for a 16 gig variant, or at least a 12 gig variant. But it does come with 8 gigs of VRAM, GDDR6 VRAM, and, you know, it's a little bit underkill for 4K gaming. Even for HD gaming now, there are games that need more. Just normal RAM, 16 gigs just DDR5, that's also a little bit underkill for gaming today. If you're not going to do 32 gigs, you should opt for 24. I would have liked if they had different Steam machines. One that is this one, which is the base version, and then one that had 8 cores, 16 gigs of RAM, a 2 terabyte NVMe, 32 gigs of normal RAM, 16 gigs of VRAM, and so just a better one overall. But that's just not the case for what they're doing. Perhaps in the future they will release a bigger version. In terms of storage, you get the option of either a 512 or a 2 terabyte NVMe. This is pretty standard. You know, it's the 2 terabyte one's probably going to jack up the price by a lot. Wireless, you know, your normal Bluetooth standards and Wi-Fi 6E, so just modern Wi-Fi there. And then, you know, apart from that, it is of course Steam OS, which is going to help a lot with performance. And the chassis and power supply are obviously going to be custom and custom made, and you know, not directly equivalent to anything, but, you know, it's something that we can just take a wage on. So starting out with what I would do instead of the Steam machine and what it would cost. Now, it is a difficult time for gaming because, well, just for computing in general, because of what everything costs right now. But I think this is a more than fair comparison. A Ryzen 5 7600X CPU with a Asus Tough Gaming B650E Wi-Fi ATX motherboard. Now this motherboard comes with Wi-Fi included, which helps a lot. It does have 2 NVMe slots, 2 PCIe slots, 3 NVMe slots actually. It looks quite good. I like the look of it. I've always liked tough gaming, and of course it is Ryzen Zen 4, and you know, this CPU is probably a little bit better than the one that's going to be in the Steam machine, but if you're going to build something, I would opt for this. Now I want to do another video where I actually build something that is previous generation, but that would beat the Steam machine and probably in price as well, but we'll keep that for another video. Now for the controversial one, the RAM. We live in a world today where one stick of DDR5 16 gigs RAM is almost $200, and this is the best price I could find. This is crazy. It shouldn't be like this. This stick of RAM should be like $50 or $60. Now, usually I wouldn't recommend getting just one stick. I would even recommend getting 2 sticks of 8 gig RAM instead of 1 stick of 16 gig RAM. But with you know, with the new standards, with DDR5 and Zen 4, those issues are largely alleviated, and RAM, you know, dual channel RAM doesn't make as much of a difference. But this is just the best price I could find, and I thought it made sense. Then moving on to the graphics card. So I've gone with a 50-50. Now, if you could find a 5060 for around this price, you know, obviously go with that. But the 5050 is a better card than what people give it credit for. I think especially for the price. I mean, if you think back to what graphics cards cost when we were younger, when I was younger, $200 for a graphics card was very cheap. And the performance ratio of cards then, let's compare the 1050 Ti to a 5050. The performance ratio on the 5050 compared to the 1050 Ti, if you just take the ratio, I think is a lot better because of things like RTX and upscaling. And so there are ways that you can take this card and make it a 4K gaming capable PC. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have a 4K 60 FPS native experience, but you know, using the technologies available today, you might be able to make it work. And that is a big testament to the times we live in one way. Now things aren't all great now, but there are some things that are better than what it was. Back in the day, you know, rasterized was the only way to go, and if your card sucked, your card sucked. Now you have technology to make it be better than what it actually is. Maybe that doesn't always look great, but you can play competitive games at 4K, and you know, it's going to be good enough, if I can put it that way. So I would go with the 50-50, but you can opt for a 40-60 if you want to. Personally, I think the Blackwell cards are really good, and I think they are worth exploring. This one, of course, is a very low power draw. Now, this is only an 8 gigabyte card, but I chose it because it's a direct comparison to the Steam machine. I'm not sure exactly how much power this card would pull, but I would be surprised if it is, you know, anything more than, say, 100 watts or so. I would think it would probably be quite little. With that said, moving on to, sorry, my order's a bit messed up here, but you know, Zen 4 CPUs don't come with coolers anymore, so you have to grab yourself a little one, and this is, for the price, a really good one. You can go cheaper. You can get something for like $15 and it will probably be fine, as this is only a 6-core CPU. Remember, we're going with the 7600X, but this one, you know, will do a good job, and it looks good. It'll fit in well with the rest of the parts we chose. Moving on to the case. Now, this is very subjective. I never like to tell people what case to get, because it's whatever you want to get is, you know, what you should get. But these Cooler Blaster Master Box cases, they look quite nice, and they sort of have the correct form factor for something like a Steam Deck. I mean a Steam machine. You know, it's going to be a similar look, but there are many cases you can choose, and I just chose this one based on price. You know, looking at this, I actually think this motherboard is full ATX, so this case probably wouldn't work. which is, you know, why you should always be careful when getting a case. Make sure that the case you get actually supports your motherboard, so don't make the mistake that I just made. But let's take a look at this one then. This is a little bit more flashy. It has some RGB fans. These are fixed fans. I would just, you know, put normal fans in here, but you know, doesn't matter. This is just to showcase that, you know, cases are very subjective. Whatever you like is whatever you like, so don't let anyone else tell you what case to get. Just go for something that you think looks cool, is the correct form factor. And even cheap cases now, like this one, it's fine. If you don't mind the fixed RGB, the case looks good otherwise. But again, there are so many options, and if you want to spend an extra $20, you'll get something a lot better. So I think it's very much up to you, but there are many options, and you know, it is all dependent on what you like. But you know, in this case, I would get something a bit square like this because it sort of looks similar to a steam machine. Moving on to the power supply. Now, these smart power supplies aren't the best. There are many better power supplies out there, but in terms of capacity and in terms of the fact that we are only running a 50/50, this will be fine. If you want to spend a little bit more, there are better power supplies out there, and there are power supply lists that you can look at. But you know, just try not to spend too little, because this is a vital component, and at least these ones have decent warranties if something does happen to it. But this is fine. It's not good per se, but it's fine for a PC like this, because it is going to be a very low power draw PC. You know, it's a low power draw CPU, low power draw graphics card. So just get something like this, at least a name brand that you recognize, and it should be fine for the most part. These aren't so expensive anymore, and if you get something like a 700 watt, you leave a bit of upgrade room if you ever want to upgrade that graphics card. But for this build, even the 500 watt would suffice. It just leaves no upgrade room, so I would go for something like a 600 watt. And then finally here, the SSD. Now I've just gone with the cheapest one I can find. This really doesn't matter too much. I mean, this is going to be a PCI 3 one, and it is only, you know, it's not the fastest one in the world, but you know, it's a little bit cheaper. If you need more capacity, if you want to play larger games, go for a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte. But you know, just as a comparison to the Steam machine, this is something that, you know, that I would get. Now let's take a look at what this all comes up to. I've just drawn up the calculator here, and let's add these in. So our motherboard and CPU is going to be 360. Our RAM is going to be 188, which is wild. Our graphics card here is 209, 210. Our CPU cooler is 35. The case, I'm just going to do, I think I'll just do 60, because it's really dependent on what case you want to get. So let's just do 60, because that's a good average price for cases now. You have a large variety of cases for that price. So we'll do 60. And then for the power supply, we'll do 45. Again, you can choose, you know, whatever you want here. Just make sure it's relatively reputable. And then for the SSD, it is another 59. And all of that comes up to $956. So $960, which that's expensive, man. For a PC like this, the market really has gone up a lot. But you can build cheapies PCs for cheaper, if you know what to look for. I personally wouldn't build this because it's just not a good time to build a PC right now. I would rather go for secondhand. Now, I do want to make a series of videos out of this, so I want to take a look at similar components for each major retailer and similar components for a secondhand build like this. And then I want to do one where I build a previous generation Zen 3 computer, and see what the cost difference would be as compared to this, and what the performance ratio would be compared to the Steam machine. Now, of course, you are leaving the upgrade capacity at the door when you take in a previous generation, but in terms of pure performance, it might surpass the Steam Machine for the same money. The Steam Machine probably isn't going to cost as much as this, and you have to consider the controller as well. So could you get a good controller for $50? Maybe an okay one, maybe just like a normal Xbox controller that you could connect to, although that's probably more like $100. So I think you could get a controller added into this for $1,000. But we are getting into expensive territory here, because $1,000 used to get you an almost high-end PC not too long ago. So it's a weird time to buy PCs right now, and therefore the Steam Machine might be hitting at the right time, because it gives you an in to gaming for, let's say it comes out at $750, right? That seems like a lot, but if you consider something like this, I'm sure you could find better prices, but maybe it really isn't that much. It seems kind of fair if you look at it like this. So yeah, this is the first video in the series that I want to be making. I'm going to do the rest of the retailers in the following videos. We'll do a second-hand one, and I'll do a previous gen one, and we'll see what compares best to the Steam Machine. What are your thoughts? It's a weird time to be a PC builder right now. It's very expensive. Are you looking at getting a computer? Do you have a computer? Are you going to upgrade soon? I think, you know, it's not the best time to be looking at these things right now, but it is a good time to get into gaming, because indie gaming is blowing up, AAA gaming is going down, and AA gaming is kind of staying where it was. So it's an interesting time for gaming. At least for the most part, indie games are easier to run, so something like the Steam Machine is good for that kind of thing. I didn't include any OS in this, because the Steam Machine uses the Steam OS, which is free, and you could do Linux as well if you want to, or Bazite or something like that. So there are options with that, or you could just do Windows, get a cheap $20 key. There are options, but at the end of the day, to summarize, it's going to cost you $1,000 to build something similar to a Steam Machine if you want to go with current generation parts. So make of that what you will. I think that is ridiculous. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. What a weird outro. Bye.